through your journey, your path that got you to CC, and then how you've changed in your time since joining CC. Um, yeah, last couple times I've been enjoying using the prompt of like at kind of at what point did you become unhinged? Because I think to some degree that's what it maybe takes to find the signal, but we don't need to start there. It's pretty open-ended, but I think yeah we could start with maybe yeah what stands out to you as
Mhm.
points along your path that like led you to picking up the signal, and then we can go from there. So yeah, maybe yeah a little bit about yourself.
Before I start, is my audio and video coming through okay?
Your video is frozen right now. Your audio sounds good.
Oh, shoot. Been having internet problems recently.
Okay.
If it freezes, just let me know and I can restart.
Yeah, maybe turn off your camera and turn it on again. See if it refreshes it because it's still frozen on my side.
Still no video.
Still, now it's just a blank screen. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you're good now. You're clear on my side.
Okay. All right, cool. Um, okay, so the question is where did my journey start? Or
Yeah, where did it start for you?
yeah, I think a lot of people in CC started in like being interested in psychology and personal
Mm,
development, and I'm no different. I think that was my first real interest in personal development. I think actually the first like person that I really like followed religiously for a little bit was Tony Robbins. And it kind of his work kind of opened my eyes to like the possibilities of like human development and the fact that one could, change your relationship with life
mm,
by just focusing on things differently or changing your relationship to things that happen. Um, and he's obviously like a very competent human being in a lot of ways. Like he's a very good speaker. He's very good at working with people on specific issues and coaching and all this stuff. So there was a period, this was in college when this started, and then there was a period where I was a business major at the time and I was like really seriously considering pivoting into psychology, or even like just becoming a coach. I actually posted an ad on Craigslist offering to coach people for free just to like just dip my toe in the water and see what I could do. And I had one client for a couple of years that I never charged them money. I just did it for free. But um, so that was one inflection point. I think the next was at the time I was in school, like I said, I was in college, and I think there just came a point where I started to really consider where my path was leading, um, career-wise, and just finding it really not compelling. And I was just sort of imagining like, okay, if I keep going down this path and I, graduate with honors from a business school and then get a job at a big four firm or like a consulting, become a consultant, something like that, and I live that life, like, will that make me happy? And the pretty obvious answer was no. And then so I started really just like questioning everything. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I suffering through these classes I don't like, learning things I don't really care about so that I can go have this life that I don't want? And that was like the start. Well, actually, to be honest, that probably was what led me into a lot of psychology to begin with, because then I started to really ask the deeper questions of like, what is it that I actually want? And I knew it was something like happiness and fulfillment. And And so then my question for a while just was like, how do I get that? Like, is there a more direct way to become happy and fulfilled than to follow this career path? And then one potential answer was like for a while I became obsessed with like finding the right life partner. And I had read this research on like how the quality of your marriage is like one of the top predictors of how happy you are. And so I like pursued that for a bit and eventually realized that wasn't it either. Uh, and then and then I found spirituality. My first introduction to spirituality was from a book called Why Buddhism is True by Robert Wright, which kind of goes into some of the philosophy and psychological basis of Buddhist teachings. Um, and then there's another book called The Book by Alan Watts. The subtitle is On the Taboo of Knowing Who You Really Are. And that was the book that really sort of like sparked what became like the flame that was my spiritual search. So because that was my first time like really being presented with some of these ideas about the nature of self and who you really are and true nature and reality and all this stuff. And I was like, it all made sense too. It was like logically coherent. And it was so radical to me at the time. I was just like, oh shit, like if this is true, then I should do nothing but like try to figure this out. And so and this was happening at about the same time where I dropped out of college to go like start a company because this is related to all the other soul searching I'd been doing and realizing that this wasn't the path I wanted. So all these sort of this all sort of converged. I dropped out of college to start a company that I worked on for another 5 years, but in parallel to that, I was like starting the spiritual search, and I found Shanti. I spent a few years just like listening to every single thing that he had posted on YouTube. I went to one of his retreats, which was wonderful. Um, and then I started experimenting with psychedelics as a way to like verify that what I was hearing and reading was like legitimate. Because I think that was one, especially early on in my journey, like one of the things that I think I struggled with a little bit was just doubt. Like I'd read these things and they'd make sense, and I would like really wanted to understand and know for myself, but I was relying on like what other people were saying. And it wasn't until I tried psychedelics that I was like, oh, okay, yeah. um, I have experienced this myself now, so so that sort of like just renewed my commitment and faith and diligence, I suppose. Um, but yeah, from there, it was just like, I guess, lots of years of just continuing um, to explore and discover. And I, I eventually found something called the diamond approach, which the reason why I really enjoyed that was because they match you with a private teacher. And it was the first time where I had like a teacher that would actually like work with me at an affordable rate. Because there were other like well-known teachers that you could work with, but they were like very expensive to like meet. And I didn't have money. So the diamond approach had options that were like affordable. And I got matched with a teacher who had a lot of practice and realization. And that was kind of a pretty big turning point for me as well. And and a lot of what the diamond approach emphasizes is like um, exploring yourself in a way, like finding the parts of yourself that are afraid to be expressed and then exploring those parts. So I did a
Mm.
lot of that work through the diamond approach with my private teacher. And that really, I think, prepared me in a lot of ways for CC.
How did CC end up on your radar from there?
It was through Frank. I followed Frank on YouTube and Instagram for a while, and I saw what he was posting about it, and I was intrigued for a while, but I wasn't intrigued enough to like try to join or or anything like that. But then I think I just kept hearing about it again and again. Oh, and then I was like watching YouTube content come out of it, and like the discussions that in the sharing, and I was just like, damn, this feels like a really good community, and I wanted to be a part of it. So that was kind of like that was what convinced me.
Hmm. Hmm. So then, now that you've been in it, is this as we're wrapping up this cycle, is this your second one?
Hmm.
Second cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel that you've changed that time? And I'm also like what how your experience has
Yeah.
been, but maybe start
Yeah.
how you've
Yeah.
changed.
I mean, I
Throw
think
a
that
curveball question at you. Elon Musk gave an interview to, I believe, to The Economist,
that me.
and he said that in 5 to 6 years we will have, you know, more than a,
I think that's you.
Is that coming?
we'll have five.
Is that me? Or you?
I think it was you. I muted myself and it was still going, so I think it's you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
It just stopped, and I don't know why. I got a lot of crap open on my computer right now. So
The same. I like tabs on tabs. I recently restarted my computer and got a clean slate, but I usually have like 5 windows, each with like 10 plus tabs.
probably overdue for a restart. Anyway, so the question was, how is
Have you
my,
changed?
oh yeah, how have I changed? Yeah, I mean that I would say that the change has been pretty radical. Um, like my first, so right now it's July, end of July, and my first cohort was like late January, I think is when it started. So it's been like what, 6 months?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I mean, just to point to some concrete changes, like I got back into fitness, which I had been neglecting for a long time and didn't really have any plans to get, change. Um, I started being a lot more consistent with my schedule, and um, I feel like one of the biggest changes has been just like my capacity to commit and follow through has increased a lot. Like in this most recent cohort, I decided, well, one of my goals was to improve my cardio fitness because that's been something that I've always had very poor cardiovascular fitness. I've had phases where I was like decently strong and focus a lot on strength training, but always neglected my cardio. And so finally I was like, this if I don't change it now, it's never going to change. So I made a commitment to start running, and that itself was a pretty big change because I think my whole life I was convinced I hated running, and this cohort I've started to enjoy it, which is pretty huge win for me. Like I actually like going on runs and feels good, um and also even just like the process of figuring out how to enjoy something like that was very
Hmm. Yeah, how
instructive.
to enjoy the work.
Yeah, yeah. Learning how to enjoy work. I think that's a big a big benefit of doing CC, or it's something that I've developed more and more. Um, I've also, I don't know, like, well, a lot of things in my life changed when I started CC, which it sounds like a very common occurrence. Like, just happens that, people join CC at an inflection point. And for me, it was my first cohort was the first day of that cohort was the first day I started my newest company full time, start working on it full time. It was an idea that I'd been exploring for a while, but I finally like left my job and then started working on it full time. And that was the first day of CC, which was pretty cool. And that was a coincidence. It wasn't planned. Um, and there's some other cool stuff that happened, which I've told you about, like my the college I went to, Indiana University, won the national championship in football, which was like a huge deal for that program because the program was like one of the worst, and then it just kind of seemingly overnight turned into like this insane powerhouse, and it's still pretty impressive today. Um, what else has changed? I mean, I guess another thing is just like my quality of relationships seems to have improved a lot. Like my ability to connect and be intimate with people has improved a lot, particularly in um, like my personal relationships. Um, I just feel more mature. I feel more stable. I feel more self-aware. Like I'm more when I'm, you know, let's see, I guess I'm just more aware when like I've of what I'm feeling and how I'm feeling it, and like and then I have more kind of agency then to choose how I'm going to engage. Um, and yeah, and then kind of with that, there's like this gradual and steady decline of behaving in ways that aren't aligned with who I want to be. So maybe that's another good way to put it. It's just like the gap between who I want to be, who I wish I was, and who I actually am is just seems to be getting smaller every day. That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. Mm. Yeah, I remember when the that football team had won and you posted an interview with the coach. I like
Mhm.
watched that and it was really that really fired me up. Like when you talked about I guess like the basic principles like
Yeah, yeah,
done well and executed well.
yeah.
Um,
So being someone who's started multiple companies and I've spent a lot of time reading about studying like leadership, and the Indiana coach is like such a great example of a living coach. Like I think everybody who cares about leadership should go and study him. Um, but one of the things that struck me was, I mean, one of the things that a great coach does is they build a winning culture, and I feel like that's what CC is. Like a lot of what I see in like an elite football team or any elite team that has a great coach, I see the same in CC, and that's pretty cool because you know that's one of those experiences like I've always wanted to have. Like I always want to like play for some amazing coach and like be part of an amazing team. And I never had that opportunity through like athletics. I'm trying to build that in my own companies. Um, but I also now I get to be part of that in another way through CC. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, it's exciting, it's enjoyable, it's motivating. It
Yeah.
yeah, you yoke together in that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, what parts of the culture in CC carry that kind of winning or like championship or yeah what aspects of the
Hmm.
culture do you see that way?
I mean, a big one is like just learning to enjoy the work, which is like a theme that you see across every great high performing culture. Um, it's all about focusing on like the work. Well, first of all, like knowing what work to do. Like that's a kind of underappreciated part of it.
Yeah.
A great coach has spent many, many years like refining and honing their mental models of like what makes a team
Hmm.
great. But then like to actually go and accomplish that is a lot of work. So it's a combination of having the plan and the blueprint to go and execute, but then also like being able to go and do it, and then building like the culture and the group of like-minded individuals who all want to do the work and are excited to do the work and care about the outcome and are just going to keep going and push each other to work more and harder and better. And there's a lot of like mm, self-improvement feedback loops and stuff that like I just keep like good cultures improve over time. And I see that with CC. Like seems like, well, I've only been part two cohorts, but even just hearing about past cohorts, I can see like a very obvious like trajectory of like improvement. And
Yep.
that's a pretty strong signal.
Yeah, it is. Mm.
I really like this because I think this is the only quote unquote spiritual community, for lack of a better word. Although I think a lot of people in CC would, you know, whether or not that term is actually appropriate is probably its own topic. But um, for lack of a better term, CC is the only spiritual community I've come across or been a part of that really emphasizes this aspect of being competent and high performing in a way that doesn't also like it sort of includes both. There's like this um, continuous movement towards realization, wisdom, and all that, while at the same time, like having that express in modernity, in life, in you know, we have people in this in CC that are like part of really cool things, difficult things. I mean, not just me starting companies, but there's other people doing that, and then there's people who are coaches, and um, we have people of all walks of life doing really interesting things, and then basically being able to figure out how to include that in one's practice is really special. And like I say, this is like the only place where I found that, and that's pretty. It's something I've always um, cared about and been interested in. Like I've always viewed like when I approach being an entrepreneur, I've always sort of viewed it as a vehicle for self-improvement and self-development. Um, but that was always kind of a me thing. And I think, yeah, I think this is the first time where I found like a community that really like embraces that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it and yeah, I guess this is yeah, I feel like this is a point that can easily be like at these aspects of life, other spiritual communities could easily be dismissed or even like neglected or like kind of short circuiting of like transcend first rather than like actual
Yeah.
expression.
And I can see why. I think it's
Hmm. Yeah.
really difficult. It's difficult to do both.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people's attitude, and I think I had a little bit of this, especially earlier on, was like, I'm just going to focus on, waking up first and then I'll worry about everything else later. Like
Yeah.
that sort of, get that over with. But then, you at some point you realize like, oh, well, that doesn't solve my problems. Um, you still got to live your life, and then, figuring out how to integrate the two can be quite challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's easy to develop this attitude of like if I can just um reach a certain level of realization or waking up that like my problems will be solved.
Yeah.
And yeah, at least for me, like I can looking back, I can see like where at what points I was doing that. And then
Mhm.
even if some sort of realization is attained, like then you're still faced with your life. You still have to and I feel like CC has this way of um maintaining this engagement with your own life. That way it's like iterated upon. It's not like you leave this big gap and you suddenly have to come back to these things that you abandoned, but there's an
Mhm.
iterative process. You're like working it while you're working your own
Yeah.
view refinement, yogic capacity, and all that.
Yeah. And maybe even beyond that, it's like I feel like I've seriously leveled up across every area of my life. It's not even just like balancing the two, it's like
Yeah.
selling in both.
Yeah. So what are you working on right now? I guess both in terms of like your own like life project, and then maybe even what aspects of view refinement or like what you're doing in CC as well.
Hmm. Mm, well, I guess I'll start with life stuff. I mentioned earlier I'm starting a company that's still pretty new and early, and I'm the sole developer. I have one co-founder, and we're raising a little bit of money now, but we're going to raise like probably a venture capital round sooner than later. And um, there's a lot of work that goes into building a product that people want to use, and so that's kind of a big chunk of my focus right now. It's just getting the product into a state where we feel really confident going out and getting people to pay for it. Um, it's an AI company. We're using AI to improve visibility into government activity. Our customers are primarily lobbyists and government relations teams at the moment because those are the teams that already sort of invest a lot in this. But over time, our goal is to make this sort of a tool that anyone who cares about what our government's doing can use, and hopefully will make our democracy more democratic. Um, but
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, I ever since I first heard about it, it's yeah, I think it's really easy as I guess a voter just to kind of be ignorant to what's going on. Like how do I hear about things?
yeah,
And it's like rare
and
that I hear about things until like maybe after the fact, unless it's like
yeah,
I don't know, someone's like literally knocked on my door and been like, "Hey, this is like literally happening right now."
yeah. And I think it's something a lot of people don't realize is just how many different ways there are to influence what's happening beyond just voting.
Hmm.
Like, I think the average citizen sort of just stops at their vote, but there's countless ways to, you can comment on rules that are being proposed in agencies. You can reach out to staff members in a congressional office, and actually, if you say the right thing at the right time, you can influence what legislation moves and what legislation doesn't. And that's what lobbyists do. That's why there's a whole industry of lobbying that exists. Um, so yeah, so we're just trying to make that industry more open, make it something that if we lower the floor, the cost to engaging in policy work, then hopefully more people will participate, and that'll lead to less captured government.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's a life project. In CC, I don't even know how to describe like what I'm working on.
Yeah. What because you're doing the main boot camp for your second
Yeah.
cycle. Are there what are the other I guess and maybe I guess contextually if someone's I guess listening to this who isn't in CC, um after you've gone through a full cycle, there then opens up like additional layers of like
Hmm.
training and development. Um so um because you're also in the program that I'm running, the
Hmm.
E exertion. Um, and then are you also in the view refinement as well?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe speak a little bit to like what that's been like for you.
But I mean, both E and D have been really wonderful. And I really like I really like the sort of ability to explore realization from different levels and different perspectives. Um, D is really cool, view refinement. I mean, Taylor, as everyone knows, is like pretty brilliant.
Yep.
Um, he's got that interview he did with Frank is really good for people who want exposure to
Yep.
Taylor's intellect. But one of the things he does in D is he kind of walks through a, a lot of history of like Dharma and how it's evolved and how different um, systems have emerged to like help address like distortions and issues from what came prior. And then sort of how all that applies to uh, our own process and how like we in our own practice like we'll encounter and work with a set of teachings, and then those teachings might do what they're meant to do, but at a certain point they become limiting. And so like sort of learning how to utilize the teachings where they're meant to be used without getting stuck is sort of, I think, the whole purpose of the refinement. um I think the way I described it in a recent discussion was it felt like we're converting all of our nouns into verbs. Like every time there's like a sense of something being fixed and like, oh yeah, this is it. Like you look at it and it just like crumbles and you're like, oh, that's not it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just been that process just ongoing and ongoing. And yeah, I feel like I got a lot out of that. And just being really precise and clear about your own experience and what what's happening in your experience, how experiences happen in the first place, like you know what is an experience like? Like what are what are the steps of going from just like a direct raw contact with the moment to a reaction to that, to what's happening, and how does that sort of proliferate and build, and just kind of being really clear about how all that works is that is a really powerful and helpful tool, I think. And
Yeah.
I think going back to what I was saying earlier about being more um, aware of myself and how I react to things, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. It's like gaining the sensitivity and the even the ability to like watch in or like real time how like meaning is made, like how you derive
Yeah.
what is from what you're experiencing, and then the ability to like articulate and communicate that with others. And it's like a really blurry picture that then like slowly becomes more and more like clear and in focus.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, I got to um, be in cohort D on for 8, and yeah, it's really good stuff. So I'll ask this. What do you think is I'll say this. What do you think is like next for you in your own development? If you think of um, like an athlete has like an athlete profile where these different like dimensions of their fitness,
Mhm.
and I guess in a contemplative or like yogic sense.
Mhm.
One second, I'm gonna grab my door real quick.
Okay.
So yeah, these different capacities or qualities, like the ability to just like develop your raw capacity, be like maybe a vector in one direction,
Mhm.
or the capacity to um, change direction or even renounce or cease could be another vector, like purification, maybe establishing worldly virtue, or even like integration, like how your insights or realization like survives relationship. Um, yeah, kind of in your own like self-analysis.
Mhm.
What Yeah, what are you eager to work on, and what do you think your next kind of
Mhm.
steps are?
Well, what comes to mind is continuing down the spiral of subtler levels of renunciation. And Taylor mentioned in a discussion recently about being able to even renounce like one's orientation. And I'm curious about what that means and what that's like. So that's one piece of it. And then the other is continuing to close the gap between having an intention to do something and then actually doing it.
Mhm.
That's been, I think, for me, an area where I've seen a lot of improvement in myself, but I just want to keep going,
Mhm.
and just have have the capacity to like have an intention to do something, just immediately act on it and never have like an argument or a negotiation with myself about, well, I know this is right for me, but do I really want to, or having like a compulsive behavior that I don't know, like just eating something junky that I know I'm not going to enjoy and it's not going to make me feel good, but I do it anyway because so stuff like that. I feel like those are all
Mhm.
areas that I want to keep improving.
Yeah. Mm.
I guess one other thing that comes to mind too is I definitely have a tendency to rush, as you've observed in through cohort, uh, the exertion cohort, where when I want to do something, I get impatient about it, and I sort of push harder and faster than is really optimal. And so in running, that I luckily I sort of corrected before it became a serious injury, but I started to develop a strain in my calves from running too much too quickly, increasing my volume too fast. And others in CC have also talked about or worked on similar tendencies. Um, I imagine that CC attracts a lot of people who have this tendency. um,
Yeah.
another expression of that is like, using psychedelics probably more heavily than I should to like, try to leapfrog or make, fast progress, whatever, whatever that.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so just figuring out the right pacing is, I think, for me, that's one of the big themes from this cohort and something I'm going to
Mm.
continue working on.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the many strengths of training in community is like that kind of a feedback loop, and then getting to, especially like over time, kind of see how it manifests in different aspects of your life. And then
Mhm.
you start to like no longer see it as just a like, oh, I tend to do this in like when I lift or like when I run, but just start to see these kind of different, um, yeah, these different aspects where that's also showing up. Um,
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, one of the cool things is seeing how every every one of these tendencies I've had in one area sort of apply to everything. So it feels like you can kind of improve your life across the board once you're very clear about like, okay, why am I struggling in this area? And you really understand what it's about and you know, work on it, then suddenly every other area also gets better. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a big part of um the culture in CC is like recreating, um like recreationally. It's like if you can yeah, develop that kind of training maturity in how you're pacing your running, it's not separate from how you develop the other aspects of your life. Whether, yeah,
I think that's really key to learning to enjoy working,
right.
training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just putting that together now, um, because I've heard many times how like enjoying is key to being great at anything because the people who actually enjoy the work are the ones who stick with it long enough to be great. But then, so then how do you learn to enjoy it? Like that's a whole question. And I think
Hmm.
a very key part of enjoying is pacing properly.
Yeah.
Combination of pacing, but then also knowing how to approach training in a way that you're actually going to see results.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It needs to be enough change to
Mhm.
justify continuing doing like a really hard thing. Because
Yeah.
doing effective training is it's really challenging because you're like, yeah, you're it's stressful. I mean, that stress is what causes the organism to adapt.
Right.
Um, but then yeah, the pacing of it, the titration of that.
Mhm.
Because yeah, in a way, rushing is like almost this trying to like get it over and done with.
Yep. That's what it is. Like I realized that for me, like I just the rushing comes from not wanting to do it. Like I just want this to be gone. I want this to be over. I want to get there already, you know? And then when I
Yeah.
really started to see that and um, how that was working in me and how that was driving me to want to rush,
Hmm.
that was really helpful to like sort of take a step back and be like, wait a minute, like I'm kind of missing the point here. Um, yeah, it's like if you play a video game and then you like leap ahead to a level that you're not ready for, it's not fun anymore.
Right. Yeah,
Whereas
you
if
just
you
get like stonewalled at some kind of thing that you just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
know.
but if you play a game that is like really well paced, right? This is the whole like thing in game design. They talk about
Yeah.
pacing, game
Yeah.
pacing.
Hmm.
And I think really it's all about just like giving you there always needs to be a challenge for it to be fun and engaging, but it can't be too much, it can't be too little. And if you apply that same sort of thinking to everything you do, then it can make everything enjoyable. And I've learned that with running, which was like probably the one area where I thought I would never enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a question at the beginning that you said you like to ask. I forget what it was. It was like, when did you start? When did the wheels come off or something?
Yeah, I think the word I used was unhinged
Oh, when did you
or
become
even
unhinged?
like dislodged. Like you know, I think um yeah, like you said, there's kind of all kinds of walks of life and different um
Yeah.
kinds of people that have come into CC. But yeah, and you spoke to it a little bit when you're describing kind of like when you looked at where kind of life trajectory was putting you when you're like in college.
Mhm.
But yeah, if there's any other aspects that stand out to you as
Yeah. there's a little bit of becoming unhinged around that time, I'd say, like when I dropped out of school, and that was a whole thing between me and my Asian mom.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's
a lot of familial dynamics at that surface that took quite a number of years to resolve. Maybe even only recently, I would say I would consider it to be resolved. Um, and then there's like I've mentioned using psychedelics. I think there's periods where I like use them quite a bit.
hmm
Um, you could say that it's slightly unhinged, but I think I've been fairly lucky, and I think I've seen a lot of people just go totally crazy, and I've been fairly lucky in that sense. I've been my path has been fairly stable, and I think that's probably partly because I've been doing things in my life that I care about, like working on trying to build a company, that requires me to show up in a particular way, and you know continue to build my competence, and um, that sort of keeps you honest in a way, like just by necessity. Um, of course, there were times where I was tempted to just like leave it all behind and go be a monk in the woods or whatever. But I never did it. I always had that sort of ground me, and it was always like a vehicle for me to continue um, developing more competence, like I said, and developing capacities, abilities that I wouldn't have had I not gone through those challenges. Because I mean, so much of building a company is similar to what I was saying earlier about how you have to have an idea of what you're doing. Like you have to know how to go about it. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of studying, and then once you know what you need to do, you have to actually go and do it, which is usually the hard part. Because there's a lot of things that you realize, oh, I should probably do this, but you don't want to do it. And I think that's probably the biggest failure mode for most entrepreneurs is they like deep down, if you ask them what they really need to do, they could probably tell you, but they're not doing
hmm
that thing.
hmm
It's all like emotional avoidance. It's all like, it's going to be uncomfortable to do that thing. And a lot of times it's like, they have the wrong people on their team, or I don't know, maybe there's a certain task that they need to go and do that's very tedious and they don't want to go do it. So, um, I think entrepreneurship is honestly an excellent vehicle for practice because you just have to keep pushing up against that wall, against that resistance, against and it's very meritocratic in a way. Like you're getting feedback from reality. Like if your company's not succeeding, it's because if you're the entrepreneur building the company, it's your fault.
Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
yeah, so it's I think it's really useful in that sense.
hmm Mm. You mentioned that you kind of recently uh found some repair in your relationship with your parents. Do you
Mhm.
feel like part of that's attributed to your development CC?
Some of it, definitely, yeah. But a lot of that has just like years of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's I've always had this uh I've always been someone who kind of focuses on the areas of my life that I'm unhappy with and trying to make them better.
hmm
And so anytime something is like bothering me or it's not what I want it to be, I'm like interested in it. I'm curious about it. Mm, just trying to improve it. And so yeah, so there's always that's always been an aspect. And I think over the years I've always had a decent relationship with my parents, but I think over the years it's just gotten better and better. And we've had really intense, difficult conversations and everything. but they were all productive and they led to like a deeper level of intimacy and trust and love and care. And I've come to understand them much better. They've come to understand me much better. So yeah, so I'm quite happy with where things are now. And I would say CC was like a continuation of what was. I could say
Mhm.
in a lot of ways like um CC is an inflection point for sure, but or an acceleration point. Like I feel like there's
Mhm.
always been sort of for me, there's always been this sort of trajectory, and
Yep.
then CC was just sort of like the next, leg of the exponential curve. Because it
Yeah.
does feel like this stuff compounds, if you keep
Hmm.
keep improving, if you keep working on this stuff, it compounds, it builds. And so for me, the next phase in my journey was to join CC and for that to continue. But I've always been someone who jumps from one thing to the next. Like once I feel like it starts to have diminishing returns, like I don't get stuck. At least that I haven't. I think that's
Hmm.
been one of the things that has really served me in my journey is like I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm always exploring. I'm always open. Um, and then when I find it, I just make the jump. I don't really waste a lot of time. Like, yeah. And so that sort of has created this sense that every year of my life has felt faster paced than the last year. And yeah, CC is like pouring rocket fuel on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I feel really, really good about what we've covered in this chat. Anything else that you want to touch on before we end?
Mm, yeah, I guess I I feel like how do I put this? Trying to find the right way to like I have a thought that's like sort of formed.
Hmm.
Not
Yeah.
like
Yeah, you can chew on
Mhm.
it. Or like, yeah, no rush, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the idea I'm trying to convey is that if I could convince every person I knew to join CC, I would, because
Mm.
I believe in it that much and I believe in the value that much. But at the same time, I can't think of really anybody who I think is ready for it.
Yeah. I can relate to that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's like it's not for everyone yet, or maybe not right now. Like there's kind of like a timing
yeah.
in someone's life that it's
Yeah.
going to make the biggest impact and also be like an appropriate level of acceleration.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause you kind of need to have certain life conditions where
Yeah.
um you can like show up consistently in the way that you need to.
Yeah. So maybe like a good takeaway for anyone watching is um if you feel ready, like do it. You won't regret it. If you don't feel ready, that's also okay. And that moment might come later.
Hmm. Yeah.
I didn't feel ready at first. I mean, but it wasn't even like about being ready or not. It was just like I don't know. I feel like when the moment came to do it, it was obvious. Like
Hmm.
I just felt in my bones that this was the time.
Yeah. Yeah. We're ready to leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've started doing as part of like on the operations side, like coaching calls where it's just like even if they're not in a gonna do the next boot camp, they can kind of explain where their practice is at, kind of their practice history, what they're currently struggling with or working on, and then get like kind of feedback as far as like next steps and suggestions and stuff. So we're starting to like kind of build out the being able to meet people at various levels other than ready to do a boot camp too.
Mhm.
Um, because yeah, it's a lot. And as your capacity goes up, so does the work. So it's just
Mhm.
yeah, keeps going. Yeah, great. Well, yeah, thank you, Roger, for yeah, sharing your story, these aspects of yourself. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up there. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Sounds
All
good.
right, take care.
Bye.